Hi, I'm Josh Cadillac, and welcome to my podcast, Know Your Shit. I've been blessed to see great success, as well as seeing the bottom up close and personal in 2008. And if there's one lesson I've learned, is that if you want to have success and differentiate yourself from everyone else out there, you need to know your shit. As a successful real estate and crypto investor and an educator, it drives me insane that people do not immerse themselves in their craft. Everyone is so busy advertising and testing new sales techniques, they forget the most important thing, the product. Here I want to talk to the folks that got this right, the most successful people in the world in every industry. Bring them to you and find out what they learned in their business that made it great. When you listen to my podcast, you will know for sure that the topics and experts we have on have one thing in common. They know their shit.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Know Your Shit podcast, where our knowledge and pride in what we do drives us to be excellent. My name is Josh Cadillac, and I'll be your host today as we strive to learn how to stop just chasing paychecks and start closing for life. I wanted to talk to you, everyone, today a little bit about an important message this time of year, which is how to set the business up. We're coming to the end of the year, how to set our business up for success next year. And to me, the place has to start with taking a look at how we did this year and figuring out whether or not we got where we wanted to go. And I suppose step one for that would be figuring out whether or not we even knew where the hell we were looking to get to at the beginning of this year. Did we send ourselves off with a clear mission in mind, or did we just say, hey, go out there and sell some real estate and see what happens? I got news for you, folks. Option two is what most agents do. Let's do some more than we did last year. One of the most important things that you need to do, folks, in order to be successful, in order to feel successful, in order to take and have any sense that you're getting anywhere near where you want to be, is figure out where the hell you want to get to before you even leave, right? So we need to figure out where we want to get to. So we got to keep in mind we're building a business. Who's in charge of building that business? As it turns out, it's you. And so if you're in charge of building the business, you've got to take responsibility for that. And you've got to do all the steps that are associated with getting that done. And one of the big steps that's required is to realize that you're in charge and you need to stop doing the work for a minute and figure out whether or not you're doing the job of being the boss. Most of us do all the work of being an employee. They're always feeling guilty that we're not doing more employee type work. But we got to realize we got to do the boss work too. We work under a broker and not for a broker. This means if we're waiting for our broker to come make it all better and fix it and make everything happy, happy, joy, joy. Yes, that is a Ren and Stimpy reference. If we're looking for them to take and fix this all and make it perfect, guys, it's not going to happen. I watch agents, especially in my coaching, I watch agents jump from brokerage to brokerage to brokerage, trying to figure out what's broken, and what they haven't realized that is they're the thing that's broken. They haven't learned to be their own boss. So we got to take and stop and start doing the job of being our own boss, which is to take and assess the business where it is, what we did well and what we didn't do well, and what we need to do better going into 2024. So I think that's the first thing to take and figure out, is to stop. The second thing we got to figure out is how we're going to do this. One of the stories I love to tell in my classes that's largely built around the conversation that we're having right now, my business building and time management class. I tell a story, I don't know whether it's true or not, of Steve Jobs and a story of him painting the fence with his father. And in the story, they go and they measure the fence, they go and they check the paint, and they figure out exactly how much paint they're going to need. And they go to the store, and the father proceeds to buy twice as much paint as they figured they needed to paint the fence. So when they leave the store, Steve says to him, Dad, why'd you buy twice as much paint? You know, we already figured out how much we needed. Why we do all the math? We're just going to get twice as much. He said, Steve, we got to paint both sides of the fence. Steve looked at him like he's crazy. He says, but Dad, the other fence is right there. Nobody's ever going to see that we didn't paint it. And his father said to him, but Steve, we know it's there. One of Steve Jobs' requirements for the iPhone was that the inside of the iPhone be aesthetically pleasing to look at. Not the part that anybody sees, the part that only the people repairing the phone would ever see, because here's the thing about Steve Jobs. He knew that was there, and therefore it had to be done right. Now, folks, I throw that out there to give you an example. Maybe it's an extreme example of what standards look like. But here's the crazy thing. Who was the first trillion-dollar company in the world? It was Apple. It was some guy worried about what the inside of his phone looked like. There's a big deal there. See, here's the thing. I don't think there was ever a second where Steve Jobs wasn't proud of what he made. Can we all say we're proud of what the business we put out is? I know I am, but I know I do a lot of work to make sure that that's the case. I know I have a lot of standards for the product that I put out. Have you figured out what the standards for your product are? What is it that you put out? So as a CEO, and I mean, we could get a lot more into this, but in general, you have to figure out what kind of product you're going to put out. Are you going to be Timex or Rolex? Are you going to be Yugo or Rolls Royce? You've got to make that decision. And then you got to figure out what the standards are going to be for your company and how you're going to do business. All right? Because here's the thing. If the company does well, do you intend to take the credit? The answer is absolutely yes. So guess what? When the company doesn't do well, guess who's got to take the blame? You want the good, you got to take the bad with the good. So be prepared for that. All right? You need to take, in order to do this well, once you figure out what your company's about, you got to set goals. And goals, folks, if I'm going to take and be absolutely honest with you what a goal is a way of emotionally manipulating yourself to get more out of you than you could if you didn't have the goal. It's a way of putting a finish line in front of you just far enough that it'll make you run harder and not quit. Make you run harder than you would have if it wasn't there. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? You're running a race, you're like, oh my God, I can't go any further. Oh my God, I'm going to die. And then you see the finish line, and you're like, oh, wait a second. I can make that. And then you continue to push yourself beyond what you just a few seconds ago thought was humanly possible. This is what goals are there for. It is a way for us as the CEO to motivate us as the staff, to get us to do more, to be a better version of ourselves than we thought we could be. That's what a goal is there to do, folks. It's to get you to take that one more step when you don't think you can go any further. To spend that extra 10, 15 minutes at work, that siren call of going home, and your PJs and the couch and Netflix are beckoning to you and saying, come home to me. I miss you. This is that little fire in your belly that says, no, I'm almost there. I can do this. I can still get this done. We're fighting against those forces that want to pull us away. And this is part of the job of the CEO, is to keep the staff motivated and on track and on path to excellence. And the only way to do that is to find ways to pull every trick in the book out to give us a great reason to do what it is that we know we need us to do. Hopefully that makes sense, folks. So we got to have standards, and the standards need to take and set us up to build the kind of business that we want. And then we need to have goals to help us get there. And these goals need to be for all sorts of things. These standards and goals need to be for all sorts of things. For how much we follow up, the phone calls that we make, emails, advertising, all this stuff. So in general, I need you to take and ask yourself this question. Are you happy with what you did last year? Now, here's the thing. If you didn't define at the beginning of the year what you want to do at the end of the year, there's a very good chance you're going to say, yeah, I'm pretty happy with what I did. Yeah, it was a pretty good year. I mean, I'd like this year to be better. But you never really knew what you were shooting to do, so you're just taking and adjusting right now to what you actually did. You are adjusting down to what you did, as opposed to what you would have hoped to have done. So if you had goals this year and you fell short, don't sweat it. There's a lot of big names, a lot of really famous people that fell short. I mean, Michael Jordan famously missed getting selected for his high school varsity basketball team. Lionel Messi was cut from a team. Thomas Edison was told he was too stupid to learn anything and should go into business because of into some kind of business where he could take advantage of his pleasant personality. Abraham Lincoln was defeated in like 8 elections. I mean, all these famous people, all these folks that accomplished such big, meaningful things and really moved the needle for the world, all of them got their butt handed to them at some point. So here's the thing. If you didn't get your butt handed to you, well, you're in the category of those unbelievable freaks of nature that just have nothing but success in life. If you got your butt in your hand because your ass got handed to you, guess what? You're in great company. Some of the most successful and meaningful people in this world, that's how they got where they are today. Folks, our butt kickings are there for educational purposes. That's how life teaches us our lessons. This is how we learn to get better. So we got to get a goal. We got to figure out what it's going to be. We got to figure out how it's going to be. If your business is real estate like my business and you're listening to this, maybe it's more listings, more buyers, more renters, more investors, more online leads, more work with a CRM that's kicking his business, more networking, whatever it's going to be. Figure out what that more of is going to be. You have to answer that question for you. If this was a coaching session, we would take and figure that out together, right? And then we would commit to how much of it we're going to do. But you got to figure out how you're going to get there. So first thing is going to be take and get the goal. The goal is I want to close X this year, dollars, customers, transactions, listings, buyers, however you want to pick it. And then once you pick what it is that you want to do, figure out what you're going to do to get there. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to figure out what the activities need to be to get you there. In other words, we're going to take that, I want to close $500,000 worth of commissions this year. I want, of that $500,000, I want $350,000 of it coming from past customers. Sounds like a decent year right there, right? Okay, I want $500,000, $350,000 for past customers, $150,000 from new business. Okay, how am I going to do that? All right, well, I'm going to take of my past business, I'm going to call this many people, and this is what I'm going to do, and whatever. All right, we need to break that down to what you have to do each day, each week, each month. Every one of these activities needs to be broken down so that you know how much you need to do each day to get to where you need to be to. So if I'm going to take and I know that I want to close $500,000 worth of business, and I know that that means that I need to have at least 40 listings by the end of the year that I have closed, well, in order to close 40 listings, I might need to take 45 listings, let's say, depending upon what your closure rate is. In order to get 45 listings, I need to take and make so many contacts to do that. In order to make a contact that turns into a lead that I can do that with, it takes me 15 phone calls for every one contacted. I need to break this down in that way so I figure out exactly how many phone calls I need to make, how many door knocks, how many cold calls, how many business cards I got to hand out. Whatever the activities are that I'm going to take and build my business around, I need to figure out what I need to do today to get that done. I need to know what needs to happen in this day and in this week, because that will let me assess, as a good boss does, whether or not my employee has done what they needed to do for this week, or whether they have to work the weekend, or they have to work extra, or they have to take and make it up some other way. Folks, doesn't a good boss provide accountability? So how the hell could you possibly be a good boss to yourself if you're not providing accountability? So I would say those are things. The other thing that you need to do is, folks, make sure these intermediate goals are clearly measurable. All right, so if I want, as I said, 40 listings by the end of the year, there's 52 weeks in a year, so figure I got to be getting a little bit less than a listing a week. If I'm at the end of the month and I only got 2 listings, I got a problem. I'm behind. This means I need to turn up my activity level to try to get on pace. You need to set intermediate goals or intermediate checkpoints along the way. Like if I'm leaving from Florida and my goal is to drive to, I don't know, Texas, and I hit Washington, D.C. on my way. I've made a wrong turn. For those of you who have the map in your head, like Florida to Washington, D.C., and then I'm supposed to be going this way, and I'm going this way, right? I'm not going the right way. We need to find that out as soon as possible so that we could take and do what we would do on a road trip. We would adjust, we would re-navigate, and navigate back onto the course that we want to be on. Things that I would suggest here, folks, write down your goals. Yes, I know they're always telling you to write down your goals. There's a good reason they tell you to write down your goals. Only 3% of people actually do. Those that actually do are significantly more likely to achieve them, 42% more likely to achieve them. Then I'll make suggestion number 2. After you write them down, share them with somebody, especially somebody you respect whose opinion of you matters to you. If you do that, you're 78% more likely to actually achieve those goals. Why do I tell you to do this, folks? This is the Know Your Shit podcast, and I'm not here to waste your friggin' time. Everybody's out there looking to take and get you to jerk yourself all over God's green creation, wasting your time. I'm telling you this because this is a way to take and make it work. If embarrassing yourself in front of somebody that you care about is going to help you to get the work out of you that you need you to do, is it worth it? Or are you too scared of failure to actually put yourself on the line and make yourself have to go do this? Hey, here's what I want to accomplish. I want you to see this. I want you to know this is what I'm shooting for. So when I get there, you and I can celebrate. And that means if you don't get there, you got to look that person in the eyes. Is that putting pressure on? Yeah, bet your boots it is, folks. That's exactly what we're here to do. You want to set yourself up in the next year to do well? Put yourself on the spot. All right? We got to manage our time well. This means, folks, when it comes this, if there's one class that agents come to because of the title, it's the class that has time management in the title. It amazes me how many agents say how terrible they are at managing their time. I ask them all the time, okay, great. You want to make more money? Fantastic. Yeah, everybody wants to make more money. Great. Are you busy? And everybody says, oh, yeah, I'm super busy. Well, we got a problem then. How can I help you make more money if you're already super busy? We got to figure out how to use our time better, so we need to take and have systems in place. To me, I'm just going to take and do this quickly for you, folks. There's a couple of systems that you really need to have. Really 3 systems, I think, in my mind that you need to have on lockdown in order to take and set yourself up as a CEO for success. You got to have your CRM or your task management. I use my CRM for task management, so for me, that's one system. You need to have a task management system that is perfect. It needs to be a system that never lets you forget a customer. So for me, my system is that every customer in my entire system, in my CRM, has a dated follow-up task, and I never actually complete the task. I contact the person, but as soon as I'm done contacting the person, I immediately reschedule the task for a future date. This means that that customer always has a future task coming up, so I'm always having them brought in front of my eyes, and it's always reminding me to call them. I say, oh, those guys, yeah, they're great people. Let me give them a ring. My system makes sure that I never forget a customer, but the same system also does a great job of making sure I never forget to do anything else that I need to do, because one of the things that when you have systems and you're a good CEO, you learn to do is that the system is only as good as your ability to honor it. And that's to get the staff, the person using it every day, to actually use it the way it's intended to be used. If you don't use a system properly, well, don't be shocked when it doesn't work the way it's supposed to. So like one of the things I put in there is my credit card payments. My credit card payments are due every single month. So when they're due, when the task comes up, I pay the credit card, and I immediately reschedule it for a month later. If I didn't reschedule the task, if I just completed it, it would go away. If I did that, the staff would be setting the system up so that the system didn't work the way it was supposed to. But by rescheduling the task, by honoring the system, I know I will have a reminder coming up in front of me the day that my credit card is due a month from now. Nice and simple, nice and easy. All of your systems are like that, folks. So one of the things that I'm a big believer in is outsourcing memory. I've outsourced all of my memorizing and remembering things to my computer. My computer remembers it all. All I do is execute. I'm good at execution. I'm terrible at memory. The computer is great at memory, not so great at execution. I execute. It reminds me of what to do, and I go execute it. Nice and simple. So that's my CRM task management software system. That's what I use there. The other one, guys, that we have to talk about is email. Email needs to be tight. Email needs to be very, very tight because email is a place where bad news comes in, and I need to know about bad news right away, and I need to respond to it right away because it gives me an opportunity to create more value for my customers with myself. If I'm an agent that is known in the industry to be fast to respond, agents tend to want to work with me more. And when they do, they tend to want to give me offers. They tend to want my offers to work out over the other agent that they don't know, or worse yet, the other agent that they do know who maybe doesn't respond so quickly and effectively. So this is a plus value add that I could take and bring to the table simply by being responsive to my emails. Last system the system I'm going to recommend for emails is pretty straightforward. You work from an empty inbox. Every email that comes in gets dealt with. And that doesn't mean it gets moved to a file that says read this later that you never actually look at. I read all the emails that come in. If it's garbage, guess what I do? Well, I'll tell you what. In my house, when I have garbage, I throw it away. Guess what I do in my inbox? I treat it like it's my house. I throw it away. If it's garbage, throw it out. What are you holding on to it for? To see if it turns into, is it going to, like a seed, you plant it, it's going to grow into a tree? I mean, it's garbage, it's garbage. Hit the delete button. No, Josh, I like to take and search my email. It's much more challenging when I leave all the junk in. Guys, if you want a challenge, go play Candy Crush. This is business. You don't have an excuse, okay? Empty the garbage out of your inbox. Now, what then leaves you in your inbox is non-garbage. Non-garbage falls in only a couple of categories. It's important, but I don't have to do anything about it. I should save it. If it's important, it needs to go someplace where you can find it, and that is tied to the important thing it's in reference to. It's an email from IRS. Well, gee, if it's about your taxes, I think you should probably have a folder that says, super controversial, the year and taxes. Oh no, that's highly controversial. Having a folder associated with yes, because I want to spend this few seconds. I'm trying to harvest that time. You told me you're busy already, right? I'm trying to harvest that time back for you so you can go make more money. Do you know how much time you lose fooling around trying to find junk in your email? I never spend time finding junk in my email. I know where all of it is. I put it in folders that just made sense. It's a simple thing. But sadly, it's a thing that we don't talk about. It's always a big joke. How many emails are in my inbox? 26,000. That's a badge of honor? Guys, is that the kind of business you want to run? One that has a huge pile of trash in the back they hide from the customers that nobody gets to see, but they know it's there. Do you think you respect your business more if you had your stuff together? Imagine what it would be like to look at your inbox and see zero there and know that everything that was there had been taken care of. It's a tremendous sense of relief, and I want you folks to be able to experience that. So that would be my second suggestion for systems. Third suggestion for systems would be your email calendar or your calendar. Agents tend to overuse their calendar and put everything on there. Remember to call this person. Remember to call that person. For me, your calendar should only be used for things where your physical body has to be present, whether it be on Zoom or in person. Otherwise, if it's a phone call, if it's anything like that, that should be in your task management system in your CRM. And I would suggest, my personal suggestion, I'm not a big fan of duplicating stuff, but when it's a physical meeting, I duplicate it in my CRM and in my calendar to make sure I never want to not be where I'm supposed to be. I've given my word that I'm going to show up someplace. I always want to be there, so I have that double redundancy. That's a matter of choice. That does take a little bit of extra time, but for me, being good to my word, and people always saying that, hey, look, he always showed up and did what he said he was going to do, that people could rely on me, that's worth a little bit of extra work. Again, commitment to standard kind of thing. Those are the three systems, guys. Those are the big three that I would say, get those right. It's going to help you a lot. Last thing I want to leave you with is this. After I get done beating up on you and picking on you like this, let me give you this last piece. You are the HR department for your company. And this business, this real estate business of ours, it's a very demoralizing business at times. You know that before you start. Maybe they don't tell you when you first start the business, but as you start the year, if you've been doing this business for any length of time, you know this business has let you down. That being the case, what are you going to do about it? Because as the CEO of your business, there is nothing that goes on in your business that's not your fault. And if your staff is demoralized, that's on you. I thought you were going to be nicer to us for a minute. I'm getting there, guys. One of the things that you need to do, folks, is find ways to set yourself up for success. You need to recognize that you are going to get down in this business from time to time. And it is okay that you get down. It's just not okay that you stay down for any length of time, because unfortunately, Article 1 of the Code of Ethics requires you to use your best due diligence to help your customers in achieving their goals. And when you're down, you are not as good. Nobody is. Your customer suffers, and you've committed yourself to being your absolute best for your customer. If you won't do it for yourself, that's the other reason to do it. I think doing it for yourself is a big enough reason, but as I said, maybe you need a bigger reason. The bigger reason is that you've committed yourself to do your best for your customer, and you're better when you're up, not down. So what do? Well, for me, folks, I find my break glass in case of emergency, things that I can watch, that I can look at, that I can listen to, that get me back in the fight. The things that make me just remember who I am and remember the fighter that lives within me, that sits there and says, no, I'm not stopping. I'm going a little bit more. I'm going to go a little bit further. It's getting ready to break, and I'm going to be there when it does. So, I mean, there's lots of different things that I found over the course of my life that do that for me, that help me. And I'll go to YouTube. I'll throw a video on. The scene from, Facing the Giants with the death crawl is a great scene. If any of you have not seen Secretariat's Belmont Stakes in 1972, man, I think it's 1973. If you've never watched that race, I don't know what it is, man. You watch that, if that doesn't stir something inside of you that makes you feel like you can go a little bit further, I don't know what will. Maybe one of my other favorites, the scene from Rocky Balboa, where Rocky is talking to his son, and his son's complaining about how hard it is to live in his shadow. And Rocky says to him, let me tell you something you already know. Life ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It is a mean and nasty place, and it'll beat you to your knees, and it'll keep you there if you let it. You, me, or nobody's going to hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. It reminds me, folks, that taking the hits is part of what it's about. And it's my ability to take those hits and keep moving forward. That's what I'm here for. That's what I'm known to do. That's who I am. It reminds me to be who I am. And then maybe it's just as simple as a little piece of poetry. Like the poem that Dylan Thomas wrote for his father as his father was dying. About not going gentle into that good night, but to rage against the dying of the light. I don't know what it is. These are all little pieces of different things that throughout the course of my life have meant things to me and have stirred within me a hunger and a drive and a fire to keep going, to keep digging when I didn't want to go anymore. The poem that's on my wall from Rudyard Kipling. It's a line in that says, if you can fill each unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run. Man, talk about hard to do, right? These are things that remind me. These are things that put me back in the headspace to take and be the better version of myself that I'm capable of. I don't always get it right, folks. I get my butt kicked too. But what this is about here is about finding a better way to do it so that this coming year is better than this past year. Hopefully some of this stuff helps you, folks. That's all I have for you today on the Know Your Shit podcast, reminding you folks to go out there and crush it. Go out there and get it. You got to go chase it. You got to chase it relentlessly. You got to want it, and want it so much that you don't stop. Because as it turns out, folks, not stopping is one of the biggest keys to getting where you're looking to get to. All right, guys, till next time.